the E. coli outbreak in Germany, Ian, right now, and talk a little bit about that and tie that into the picture here as well?
Well, maybe I think we have to look at a couple of steps along the way, because the E. coli event in Germany was not random by any stretch of the imagination. So let's go at least back to Fukushima. Mm. Now, Fukushima, of course, the earthquake, tsunami, stroke nuclear meltdown event, all occurred on March the 11th of 2011. But there is something else that I've picked up that I don't think is coincidence. Exactly 1 year previously, on March the 11th, 2010, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan issued a statement. And this is a statement by the Press Secretary stroke Director General for Press and Public Relations in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on the decision of the government of Israel regarding the construction of housing units at settlements in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. And let me just read these two short paragraphs that this statement consisted of. Number one, the government of Japan deplores the decisions of the government of Israel to give permission for the construction of 1,600 housing units in East Jerusalem, in addition to 112 units in the West Bank, just after the Israeli and Palestinian leadership's acceptance of the start of indirect talks. The government of Japan does not recognize any acts that prejudges the final status of Jerusalem and the territories in the pre-1967 borders. Japan demands that the plans should not be implemented. Second, the government of Japan continues to request strongly that both parties will act in a way that enhances mutual confidence. Japan sincerely hopes that the indirect talks in the peace process will swiftly develop into the resumption of direct talks between the two parties. Now, in isolation, you say, well, you know, so what?
Right.
But then something occurred on February the 18th of this year in the UN. And basically that was a vote in the UN to vote on exactly this issue. And the motion before the UN was that Israel should immediately cease and desist with the further development of West Bank settlements. The two of the primary countries that voted against Israel in that motion were Japan and Germany. Mm-hmm. Now, this is very, very significant because this, as far as I can ascertain, this is the first time that Germany has ever voted against Israel in a UN vote. They've either voted with Israel, which is what they're expected to do, of course, or abstained. But this time, both Germany and Japan voted against Israel. Now, that was February the 18th. So a little under a month later, or a little under 4 weeks later, of course, we have the earthquake, tsunami, nuclear power meltdown. But, you know, immediately after that event occurred, there was some information coming through from Japan that suggested that the nuclear meltdowns and the subsequent explosions actually occurred, in some cases, before the tsunami actually hit.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
So something isn't quite right with the timing here. So what could have caused the nuclear power stations to start the meltdown process before the tsunami hit? Well, there's only really one thing that could do that, and that's the Stuxnet virus.
How so?
Well, the Stuxnet virus was developed supposedly by the CIA, Mossad. Personally, I think it's more likely to be Mossad stroke CIA than the other way around.
Right, right.
But the Stuxnet virus was specifically developed, and the reason that I believe it was more Mossad than the CIA, the Stuxnet virus was deliberately developed to target the Siemens controllers in the nuclear power stations. And primarily it was developed because these were the controllers that were believed to be within the Iranian nuclear infrastructure. So the Stuxnet virus had been specifically developed to be able to take down any Iranian nuclear plant that looked like it might be coming online anytime soon. Now, there's another factor here as well, and that is that Japan had actually committed to do some nuclear processing for Iran, which, of course, that didn't go down too well with Israel either. So consider the possibility that the Stuxnet virus was unleashed within the Japanese nuclear facilities, either when it was known that the earthquake and the tsunami was on its way to the east coast of Japan, or worst case scenario, maybe they already knew that this event was going to happen and scheduled the Stuxnet virus to attack the Japanese nuclear facilities. Now, another factor here is that the Fukushima security, funnily enough, was in the hands of a Japanese company. And here we've got, another situation.
An Israeli company, you mean?
Sorry, an Israeli company.
Yes.
Sorry. An Israeli company. And so here we've got another situation like 9/11, of course, where all the airports where the planes took off from on 9/11 were in the hands of Israeli security. The World Trade Center was in the hands of Israeli security. On the London Underground on 7/7, it was in the hands of Israeli security. And I've heard the argument that Israel's one of Israel's primary exports is its security services. Well, shouldn't this start sounding a few alarm bells?
Yeah, absolutely. Furthermore, by the way, I don't know if you heard about that one, Ian. The Stuxnet had an interesting word contained within it referring to Myrtus. There was apparently some kind of allusion to Esther inside of the Stuxnet, the book of Esther, the Old Testament tale in which the Jews preempt a Persian plot to destroy them, and this was I haven't read the entire scenario of how this was incorporated into the Stuxnet program or virus, if you will, but apparently that is there. That was from one of the mainstream papers. We had the article up on the site as well. So that's an interesting little hint there for to add to the pile there. Yeah.
No, incredible. So what we have is we've got then the nuclear situation in total meltdown. Literally, I think it was 2 days later, Angela Merkel announces that the German government are immediately decommissioning all pre-1980 nuclear facilities in Germany. Now, why would they do that? Because Germany isn't exactly susceptible to tsunamis, right?
Yeah.
There's not going to be too many tsunamis coming in off the Baltic or up the Rhine.
Right.
So why would Germany shut down their nuclear, or announce that they're shutting down their pre-1980 nuclear facilities? Well, could it be that Germany, within its security services, has some players there who are very, very astute at watching what's going on in the deep geopolitical arena? And the reason I make this observation is because in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, the German Minister of Intelligence, von Bülow, immediately grounded all Lufthansa Boeing aircraft. And all of the Boeing installed computer equipment was stripped out of the Boeing aircraft. And of course, von Bülow has actually been probably the closest we've got to a 9/11 truther within the European government structure. With the along with probably a guy called Michael Meacher in the UK, but Michael Meacher was neutered a few years ago. But von Bülow was clearly very much on the ball, and because of the supposition that these planes that had allegedly flown into the World Trade Centers and the Pentagon and crashed in Shanksville had been hijacked remotely, and of course this is a technology that Rabbi Dov Zakheim was also very closely associated with, and of course he's one of the signatories to the PNAC document, Rebuilding America's Defenses, which was published in September of 2000, and on page 51, contained that remarkable paragraph, which said that the transformation may be a long one, i.e., the ability to bring on the American public to buy into the American agenda of global control. I said that they would actually have to have something like a new Pearl Harbor. It was a catastrophic and cataclysmic event like a new Pearl Harbor. And of the 27 signatories of that document, when it was published in September of 2000, 10 of them went straight into George W. Bush's government in January of 2001, and Rabbi Dov Zakheim was one of them. Now, Dov Zakheim was Donald Rumsfeld's comptroller at the Pentagon, and it was actually Zakheim who, on September the 10th of 2011, announced to the world's press that the Pentagon could not account for $2.3 trillion.
That's right.
So the Zakheim link to Boeing and to the possibility of these planes literally being hijacked by some form of remote control clearly spooked the Germans, which is why they grounded their Lufthansa Boeings and stripped out all of the Boeing installed computer technology. So now what we've got here is a situation where very similar, where just 2 days after the Fukushima meltdown commenced, then we've got the German government basically stating that they are going to immediately decommission all pre-1980 nuclear establishments and wind down their entire nuclear program, so that they have no nuclear capability by the year 2022.
See, that's interesting because I did not see that story before you alerted me to it. But the interesting thing in Germany here is that there's been an incredible amount of people since the Fukushima disaster coming out, in Germany, out onto the streets, demanding, if you will, then the government to look into viable, other options for energy, generating their energy basically. And so the question is, if they've already done this decision, what is the reaction from the people we see on the street? Is that just an implementation and a further, if you will, popularizing the idea of decommissioning the nuclear plants? Or why do you think there's so many people out or were demonstrating out in Germany after that?
Yeah, maybe it is. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it is, a bit of the cover for it.
Yeah.
That then the German government could say, "Oh, we were just bowing to popular reaction."
Exactly. That's what I was thinking when I read that.
When in reality, it's a matter of public record that
right.
Angela Merkel stated this intention way before there was any public reaction.